Dean, this week we learned that if you are a British citizen caught in a war zone, then you'd better try and hitch a lift to safety with some passing German or French government evacuation efforts, because the British aren't coming. They are particularly not coming if you happen to work as a doctor for the NHS and were only in that area on holiday before the war broke out. The fewer potentially lefty, activist, militant doctors, the better, eh? In other news, the voter ID laws the Tories have brought in are having the predictable effect. Only 4% of those who lack photo ID have applied to get one, so that's 96% of potential non-Tory voters removed from the process. What a happy coincidence. And a rich man from the Bank of England tells us all to get used to being poor, which sounds just like what Brexit has promised us would happen. More expensive food and less money to buy it with.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation, this is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
Well, let's get back to it.
Over the next few days, rain and drizzle will gradually clear, and the start of the bank holiday weekend will see widespread bright and sunny spells, but with some thunder, lightning, very, very frightening. The rest of the weekend will remain rather warm, with some heavy showers and storms likely into and including Sunday and Monday. 4 flood alerts remain in place across the southwest of England.
Warning, warning.
That is 4 flood alerts equals 2 flood warnings. It's 2 to 1. That is the ratio. The UK is expected to experience its warmest weather of 2023 so far over the bank holiday weekend. Met Office spokesmodel Alex said, "There will be some heavy showers around, but there will be plenty of dry and bright weather around as well. It's going to be feeling rather more humid, and moisture is going to spark some heavy showers in places. You're going to get wet." On Saturday, quite a lot of cloud, some outbreaks of rain in the morning. Before that, rain is pushed further north later in the day. Pushed further northwest, I bet. Checking while you wait. Aha! Raining right now, as in this minute, in Glasgow. It will be mostly dry tomorrow. Mostly. A little bit of rain. Sunday, raining and lightning. Monday, raining. Tuesday, cloudy. Wednesday, raining. Thursday, heavy, heavy cloud. Friday, sun. Pfft, rubbish. Nonsense. But then normal services resumed. And the weather in Glasgow from the Saturday the 6th is raining on Saturday, raining on Sunday, raining on Monday, raining on Tuesday, raining on Wednesday, raining on Thursday, and raining every day for the rest of your lives. Damn it! Oh well. Never mind. So, on Saturday, here, there and everywhere, heavy downpours, quite slow moving. Sunday, more rain. In fact, Sunday is going to see the most showers of the 3 days through the weekend, but it will remain quite mild, even in northern Scotland. If you can believe that.
No.
And then Monday, more showers for some, but many places looking mostly dry and some sunny spells and warmer than it has been. Mainly dry on Tuesday. Not bad. Would you like to hear the long-range forecast for the next 4 weeks?
No.
OK, first half of May. It's almost May. Can you believe it? That's the 5th month. We're practically halfway through the year already. May, first half, settled to start, especially in the south and the east, with dry conditions and sunny spells. Cloudy and cooler in the north, some showers possible. Later next week and into the weekend, there's an increased risk of unsettled conditions moving in to dampen His Majesty's sparkly hat dance. Oh, not now. Later. Temperatures likely to be slightly above average in the south, although in the middle of May there is an increasing chance of rain or showers. So that's the first 2 weeks of May. The second half of May now, well, could go either way. Could get snow. Might be a heat wave. Fingers crossed, everybody. Good luck. Second half of May. Fairly equal chances of fine or changeable weather, and temperatures more likely to be above average overall. Fairly equal chances of fine or changeable weather and temperatures more likely to be above average overall. We'll take it. Paul emails, I see the government use the courts to stop the nurses from striking again. Would that be the same courts that have enemies of the people judges who stop anything that the government doesn't like? That is snowflake lefty enemies of the people judges to you, mate. 0345 6060 973. Here's a call in Hull. Hello, Charles.
Charles Hull.
Charles Hull.
Hi, Nick.
Charles.
Yes, as your Cub reporter, I decided to investigate how hard or how easy it is to get authentication to be able to, vote in the election.
Is this one of the government-approved voter authority certificates?
Oh, actually, it does actually say, I have got it here, voter authority certificate.
Yeah.
And but I would like to say it was Tuesday morning, 10:30. I was thinking I'm going to be in the queue for an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
I walked through the doors. The usher.
Hang on a minute. Walk through what doors?
The doors of the centre.
What centre?
The council centre.
There's a centre?
Yeah, in Hull.
Where is it?
In
the centre?
Near Alfred Gelder Street.
Right in the middle?
I remember that at least.
Right. And
he ushered me to a young man behind a desk immediately, by the way.
There was an usher. That's nice.
Yeah.
Did he have a torch?
And I said, well, I'm sorry, I don't have any
identification
photos from a photo booth.
Yeah, right. Why would anybody want to see a photo of you?
Wild, a bit of a wild man. I've got a bit of a big beard,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I looked a bit, Lon Chaney. Anyway, so that's for the old folks.
You look like Long Chaney. Did Long Chaney have a beard? I'm not sure that's true. Is it?
Well, actually,
no.
It depended on midnight.
It depended on midnight. Oh, okay, right, gotcha. Yeah, he's a werewolf.
Yes,
right.
And it's very bushy.
So you look like a hippie. Yeah.
Photos, and he said, no.
Yeah. To cut a long story short, Charles. Hey, Charles. To cut a long story short, yes.
And everything went well, and then he said, "Do you want it sent to your home?" I said, "No, I'll collect it because I want to make sure I can vote."
Yeah, and
anyway, all over, done and dusted inside 15 minutes.
Well, that's excellent news, Charles. I really am pleased to hear that. Thanks for that call. Appreciate it. The reason that there was no queue is that people didn't know this was happening. The final deadline closed on Tuesday for online applications for the government's new voter ID needed for this May's local elections. Guess how many people voted? That's right, 89,502. 89,502 applied for voter authority certificates, like that nice long-winded man that I was just talking to. 89,502 people sounds like a lot until you realise that that's just 4% of the estimated 2 million people who lack valid photo ID. So there's about 2 million people now who won't be able to vote. These figures are especially low among two groups who don't possess the necessary documents, the young and the old. A little more than 2,600 over 75s and more than 5,000 under 25s applied for this new voting document. These dire statistics, says The Independent, shouldn't come as a surprise to ministers. Well, no, of course not. It's the blooming plan, isn't it? The government's own impact assessment last October estimated that those who lacked photo ID in large numbers probably or definitely would not apply for the voter authority certificate because they didn't know about it, because they'd never had to have one before, because that's not who we are in this country. They knew it would stop millions from voting, and they went ahead and did it anyway. And as there is no such thing as large-scale voter fraud in this country, the only conclusion you can draw is that the Tories are deliberately trying to stop people voting. And the people that are being disenfranchised are those who most likely would not vote Conservative. And not only do they try to stop votes being cast, they're sowing confusion as well. More than a third of English adults incorrectly think that a student card will be accepted. No, of course not, because who do students vote for? Photo ID cards are student cards. It's the same thing, but you don't get to use one to vote. A senior citizen's rail card, that's just fine, because senior citizens are most likely to vote Conservative. but not a student rail card or a student union card or anything else that is appropriate for a young person. I mean, you don't need to be a genius to work out what is going on. It's also, what would Donald Trump do? Usually the worst thing in any given situation.
Don't be rude.
Many young people don't carry a wallet. They rely instead on using their phone for all of their payments or travel. Others who vote on their way to work only realise when they arrive at the polling station they need a passport or a driving licence to cast a ballot, and then they'll get sent on their way. And they won't come back after work, will they? At which point the plan will be working perfectly. I mean, it's not like they don't know all this. The Electoral Commission warned ministers it had fundamental concerns that the plans could not be delivered in a way which is fully secure and accessible and workable in time for the local elections in May. And they're in such a rush, ministers, to trial voter ID at these local elections because they really, really want the rules in place for the next general election. And if the local elections show that the young are being prevented from voting, then the Tories are going to scrap the whole system because integrity is their number one priority.
This government will have integrity at every level.
0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC.
Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Oh, hello.
0345 6060 973. Adrian emails, with the passing of Jerry Springer this week, I've been reading some of his show titles, which include but are not limited to, You Slept With My Stripper Sister. I slept with 251 men in 10 hours. I married a horse. Zach the 70-pound baby. My personal favourite, I married your dad, but I want you back. Yeah, I don't know. I quite like Jerry Springer's work. I mean, he himself was amusing, unlike the deeply unpleasant version that we had in this country, which there was nothing funny about. 0345 6060 973. Let's see who's been waiting the longest now. Glasgow. Hello, Frankie.
How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing great, mate.
And it's not raining, by the way.
Nonsense.
Before you start, Nick, it is not raining tonight.
I think you seriously need to clean your windows there, Frankie. You can't see out properly.
That's probably true, mate. That's probably true. I can't believe he dissed Rainbow George. He's a legend. Charles. That's Rainbow George.
Who's Rainbow George?
Charles, that was on, the first guy on. Right, that's your glamorous assistant. You remember Rainbow, the show? Like, children's show, George, Bungo, Zippy and George. Mm-hmm. He done the voice for George.
I doubt it.
He did. That's Rainbow George. Honestly, I'm not weighing you up. That's a fact. Right?
Well, we're not interested in facts on this show.
Right, no bother. Anyway,
yes,
it's about what about 30 pence Lee? He's trying to tell the Poles what's right and wrong.
That was so deeply embarrassing. Yeah, 30p Lee Anderson was trying to school he was the Met police chief, wasn't he?
He's the main man. He just went down and felt his collar and said, "You're making a breach of the peace."
Yeah.
He said a lot of, what did you do in your last job? Me and the rest of the population, by the way, because he's not a propagandist, Joseph Goebbels has got his work cut out, listen to him. He said, we all wish you'd have stuck to it. I don't know if felt his collar, that. Come on.
Yeah, never mind about feeling his collar. Let's just get straight to the tasering.
I cheered them up.
All right. OK, good work. Thanks a lot, Frankie. 0345 6060 973. Daryl says, so another evacuation snafu, this time in Sudan. Fishy Sunak, the Prime Miniature. Prime Miniature. Well, see, I'd never thought of that before. That's not bad. I mean, I know you shouldn't pick on people for their, for whatever is about them physically, because they have absolutely no control over how high they are. But in his case, I will make an exception. Fishy Sunak, the Prime Miniature, and his guard dog Cruella have been preoccupied with breaking international law in a limited and specific way again. Meanwhile, the Foreign Secretary and nominative anti-determinist James Cleverly doesn't seem to have a Scooby. Where's deck chair Dom when you need him? Lazing on a beach again, I wager.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Totally believe you. That's a lot of material that Daryl's squeezed into that one message there. A lot. Mike says, I hear you're in the frame to be the next BBC chairman. Please cancel the One Show. I can't stand that rubbish. And while you're at it, MasterChef as well. That Greg Wallace gives me the creeps. All right, I have no idea who Greg Wallace is, but so I can't disagree or agree. I've got no idea. I just don't look at what's on channels 1 to 5 anymore. It doesn't even occur to me. Apart from Antiques Roadshow with the blessed Fiona. Apart from the Antiques Roadshow and Match of the Day, I don't even look in the TV guide for anything that's on channels 1 to 5, because there's never anything on. Who's watching that stuff? It's a mystery, as Toya used to say. Is that who Greg Wallace is?
It is, yeah.
Right. I've still got no idea. Why would he give you the creeps? He's a chef, isn't he?
Yeah, but...
Wow. Yeah, but... Folkestone. No, not Folkestone. Rochester. Hello, Lulu.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Lulu.
I love you very much.
Oh, thanks,
hello.
Lulu.
A couple of three things,
yes.
As Phil Leotardo would say.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Folkestone today and I thought about you.
That was Phil.
Like
that
it,
was
didn't
Phil
you?
Leotardo. That's exactly who that was. Yeah,
Yes,
Phil Leotardo.
it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The best series of television ever. And I make it my mission to get everybody I know to watch it. And I'm achieving that aim.
It's a very, very good mission you've got there, Lulu.
Yeah. I feel it's like my calling. So, love that. Also, love Sunset Boulevard.
Yes.
The film.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, beautiful. And the other thing is...
I do play a couple of 3 clips from Sunset. That's right.
You absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you heard about the Tories sending out postal votes and the address to return them to is Tory office? Have you heard about that?
No. Where'd you read that?
Yeah, I've seen it on Twitter. People have actually posted, the envelope with, do your postal vote and send it back to us. I mean, these people are so corrupt, it's untrue, isn't it? And as you say, what would Donald Trump do? So it's exactly, they're following that whole, thing, aren't they? They're trying to just,
Well, they sent out a leaflet to people saying that you don't need photo ID to vote, but you absolutely do. It's their own policy. So what's that about?
They are gangsters. They are criminals. Sorry, but...
Are we still talking about The Sopranos? Yes. Go ahead.
At least The Sopranos had a bit of charm about them, didn't they? So,
as they were chopping up, as they were chopping up people in the butchers out the back. Yeah, they were just so charming.
In the pork stall. But I love James Gandolfini. I was such a fan of his that when he died, people were texting me all day long. Are you okay?
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Warning.
Oh,
he died. Yeah.
I know, and he was a fabulous actor. And finally,
and
Nick,
in closing.
I also read on Twitter that there was a directive that came out from Tory Central Office in 2020, basically telling all their MPs to just lie.
Yes.
And just bamboozle people and do the old Donald Trump fake news thing.
Yes.
So as you say, you are quite right.
I am completely correct in every respect.
In every respect.
And I have that story right in front of me. Thanks for giving me the good swerve there, Lulu. Cheers, my dear. This is from 2020. I've been saying that. I had no idea that this was actually a real thing, but I've been saying this for ages, just as Lulu quite correctly pointed out. The Tories stand accused of a secret policy to openly lie after a local party newsletter urged would-be Tory politicians to ape Donald Trump and weaponise fake news. Fake news. In a document circulated to Tory activists, Wellingborough Conservatives urged campaigners to, quote, say the first thing that comes into your head as you can live that down later. In a section calling for grassroots campaigners of Boris Johnson's party to learn from Trump, the document says that the president successfully managed to weaponize fake news. Trump has learned that a lie can go around the whole world before the truth can get its boots on. He never was proper about anything.
Everything that I've done is 100% proper. That's what I do, is I do things proper.
He lied. The Tories' leaflet said, if you make enough dubious claims fast enough, honest speakers are overwhelmed. If someone tweets 10 dubious claims per day, and it takes you a week to disprove each one, then you are doomed. It says Trump uses this tactic to dominate the news and crowd out legitimate politicians. He's not a very nice person.
Donald Trump is a very nice person.
Oh, I got that wrong. The local party then instructs campaigners to, quote, say the first thing that comes into your head. It says it'll probably be nonsense, but it knocks your opponent out of his stride and takes away his headline. You then have a few seconds, possibly minutes, to reword it, say that you misspoke, were misheard, or whatever. You know, things like the government is investing more in the NHS than ever in its history. Liar! Stuff like that. The government is now putting in 110% more than the previous Labour government did at any point in during which time it was running the country. And you've never heard that statistic before, so you don't have anything at your fingers to disprove it. And so it lodges into the public's mind. And then later you look it up and it's the absolute opposite. It was a perfect example with Slippery Fishy the other day. It was, I think it was Prime Minister's Questions, wasn't it? He said, Mr. Speaker, this government has brought crime down by 50%, which is completely correct in every respect. No, it isn't. It's actually gone up by 50%. He just ignored the fraud part. As though people that are victims of fraud don't mind. We've just taken all of your money, but we're calling it fraud, so just shrug it off. So they throw this stuff out, knowing that the opposition don't have the ability to counter it because they've never heard this stat before. So why would they have something to disprove it at their fingertips? Of course they don't. They go away and look it up later, and then later they write a column in a newspaper that says, wow, you got that wrong, by which time the government has moved on and told 20 other lies. It's exactly what Donald Trump would do. That's how he uses his words.
I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
Yeah. That's what he does. Knows the best words. It says, you may get a bad headline saying that you spoke something silly, but you can live that down. Meanwhile, your opponent is knocked off the news feed. This is from this document circulated to Tory activists by Wellingborough Conservatives in 2020. They said it runs counter to everything that traditional politicians are taught. That is, never to say anything that is not 100% accurate. The problem is 100% right, 2 weeks late, equals defeat. Sometimes it's better to give the wrong answer at the right time than the right answer at the wrong time. And there it is, in a nutshell. It's always what would Donald Trump do?
I'm president. Can you believe it?
And it doesn't matter whether you know that he's lying to you, as long as they win. Because nobody ever remembers how they won. They just remember the winner. And that's where we are right now. We're being run as though by Donald Trump. This country is a Donald Trump puppet now. Can you imagine where his hand has been?
Disgusting.
Ugh. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @lbc. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30. The news headlines with Daryl Jackson.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Some nobody.
0345 6060 973. Tom text, did you hear about 30p Lee, as in Lee Anderson, as in the deputy leader of the Tory party? If you can believe that. Did you hear about 30p Lee trying to start a fight with the Tory councillor over Andrew Bridgen in a parliamentary dining room? What sort of people have we got running this place, says Tom. Well, I think we know what kind of people we've got running this place. Can you believe that? I think the phrase was something of the order of, right, you, outside now and we'll sort this out. It's not a council estate pub, mate. It's the Houses of Bloomin' Parliament. What an absolute shower. Kath texts, it's not just more expensive food, it's more expensive food, clothing and footwear.
We could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear
straight away. Straight away, he said. Liar! Yeah, no, apparently not. Just ignore everything that man says on any given subject and you won't go too far wrong. Chingford, hello, John.
Oh, good evening, Nick.
John.
Actually, just one interesting fact before I get into my spiel. Did you know that Rishi Sunak and Tom Cruise are both the same height, both 5'7"?
Well, I know which one I'd rather see on the big screen.
Well, you couldn't see Rishi as Maverick, you know?
No.
If his career sort of...
no.
If he loses the next election. No, actually, I mean, back to reality. I don't know if any of your listeners heard the confrontation between Marina Purkis and Jacob Rees-Mogg on his show, where she absolutely demolished him. I think it's gone viral. I mean,
define demolished?
I don't. Well, deconstructed or mullered. I suppose mullered Mogg, Marina mullered Mogg. If that makes any sense. I mean,
I know that's what Twitter is trying to convince itself of. I know this is going to be an unfashionable opinion, but I'm not sure that's right.
Well, I actually I was just switching around as I often do, and I saw that she was a guest, and I thought that's unusual, so I had to sort of just hit the button at the right minute.
You don't have to dance around it, John. You were glued to that channel. Go ahead.
No, I just happened to switch on. And
it was an accident, Your Honour. Sure.
Hello?
Yes?
No, but the thing is, I mean...
Hello?
Where she made him absolutely...
What?
Hello?
Yes?
Hello, Nick, are you still there?
Hello?
Hello?
Am I still here?
I mean, the funny thing was she one of her gambits was, you said that we were going to have cheaper food once we joined the EU, and Mogg goes, well, we already are because of our deal with fabulous deal with the Australia and New Zealand.
TPC. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, did you? I don't think you got that, but
no, I did. I understood. I got every word. Yeah. And
okay. Well, no, I mean, just everything she came at. I mean, he just gave a... I mean, I think he's now actually in the Twilight Zone. I mean, he's actually entered the Twilight Zone. But it's online. And
yeah, I saw it. I just didn't come to the same conclusion as everybody else.
Oh, okay.
Right, like I said, it's an unfashionable opinion, but no, I didn't. I would have scored it a Rees-Mogg win, actually.
Oh, really? I mean, his frozen smile at the end was kind of...
well, it's just him.
I would give it I think Marina's joining the LBC team, isn't it? She often fills in.
I don't have any information in that regard, John.
No, she has filled in some of the graveyard slots, 4 in the morning and things like that. But I'm a great admirer anyway. I think she...
yeah, well, I follow her on Twitter. I just didn't come to the same conclusion as the rest of Twitter did about that particular exchange. But anyway, thanks a lot, John, for painting that picture. Hang on a minute. God, this cold. I've had this thing for about 4 weeks, but, I never complain.
Stop whining.
It just doesn't seem to go away. What's that about? Ronatex, did you see that Lawrence, Mr. Popular Fox, had a lovely interview with the truly brilliant Dr. Bharat Pankarnia? Well, yes, I did see that, and that was an undisputed win by Dr. Bharat Pankarnia. Yeah, it was two, what do they used to say in wrestling? 2 falls and a knockout, something like that. Yeah, that was. There was no way about. No way about it. No way. Oh, God. No way around it. Dr. Bharat Pankarnia wiped the floor with Lawrence Fox. Which I would be just delighted if I never saw his face again. Blackpool. Hello, Alan.
Oh, hello, Nick. I wanted to get back to the postal vote.
Yeah.
You see, like all good citizens, I had my card, and then I applied for a postal vote. So I got all the things through, the envelope, tick this box, sign this. Well, I've sent all mine off, and there's nothing said in it at all about needing any sort of ID.
No,
it's
you don't. For postal votes, you don't.
Oh,
That's
you
right.
don't?
No.
Oh, is that permanent, or is that just for now?
Well, there's going to be a change coming to postal votes. You're going to have to reapply, I think, every 3 years, something like that. They're going to make it difficult in some way. You don't get a pass,
right?
Like everybody, you're going to suffer like everybody else. If you're going to place your vote, then they're going to have to. You're going to get forced to jump through hoops. It's the democratic way.
Yeah. See, I haven't got any ID whatsoever. Can you believe?
Well, have you never left the country?
1975, I left the country last.
Oh, yeah. Where'd you go?
I was camping in Guernsey when I was at Marlow, and I got a day pass.
You got a day pass to Guernsey?
Sorry, say it again. I said that too quickly. I was camping with some folk in Guernsey. And we went over to St Malo in France.
Oh.
You just got a day passport.
Yeah. And you disliked it so much.
No, it was all right.
You've never left the country again.
Well, the only thing that upset me was I was 15 at the time, and at school I was told all the time, they drink wine from the age of 3 years old upwards. And we went into this bar. They didn't want to serve us. Said, you're not... I can't do the French accent, but you're not 18, monsieur. And all that.
Right.
I remember arguing. They did eventually reluctantly let us have a bottle of wine.
Guilty.
Guilty, yeah, not terrible. Terrible.
Right. Okay, so that is true. You don't need photo ID if you're going to postal vote, but they are going to make it difficult for you to continue to postal vote. You're going to have to reapply for that vote every 3 years, something like that. And it'll have to be online. So if you're not used to doing it online or you just can't be bothered, then that's another way that they're going to get you. Thanks, Alan. 0345 6060 973. The first words from the doctor to Loz. I sometimes wonder why you exist. Yeah, that's right. Doctor to Lawrence Fox. I sometimes wonder why you exist. And then the rest of the interview was conducted in that way. And the doctor totally wiped the floor with the guy. Without really even trying. He didn't break a sweat. It was excellent to see. Simon says, while sitting in a supermarket car park today, I've come to the decision that the world is divided into two types of people. Nice, intelligent people that return their trolleys to the appropriate place after they've unpacked their groceries. And Brexiters. Brexiters. I thought you had to give £1 to take your trolley away. Are they just throwing pounds away? They just don't care. Or the pound in your pocket is worth so little, you might as well not bother. Just too much effort to take that thing back. What's this?
I thought it was important news.
What? Which bit? Front page of the Star. Mankind, the final humiliation. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, but the goblins is probably quite interesting.
Oh, your essential cut out and keep guide to goblins.
Very interesting.
Well, what are they?
I haven't got a clue. They don't look very nice.
No, they don't. That is true. Thanks for keeping me updated with all the latest hot news. And as soon as it reaches me, it'll reach you too. Let's have Sutton Coldfield. David.
Hi, Nick. Just want to say, as everyone does, you're a brilliant, brilliant presenter. Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
And I just wanted to ask you if you've seen two things this week. One, the Kay Burley interview with James Cleverly, where she simply asked him, if these migrants are illegal, why don't you arrest them?
Yes. And he just kept dancing around and around and around and around and around and dancing around and around and around. Yeah, I know. It's just painful to watch.
Yeah, brilliant. He was sputtering like an old car. And the other thing, this is a bit more obscure.
Yeah.
Someone actually challenged Lee Anderson to a duel this week. A Scottish, I think it was an SNP MP.
I think it was the other way around. I think Lee Anderson said to someone, and it was so silly that I did read the article, but I didn't take much of it in. But all I came away with it with is that they were in the Houses of Parliament at one of the restaurant, one of the many, 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 many subsidised restaurants paid for by us poor dopes who pay taxes. And he said, they had an altercation, and Lee Anderson said something of the order of, right, you outside now and we'll sort it. You know, like it's midnight on Friday in one of his local pubs, for crying out loud. The Houses of blooming Parliament. What are these people like? And the guy he said that to said something like, well, what did he say? It was like pistols or swords or something like that.
Something like that,
yeah. Amusing.
But yeah.
Yes.
That's all I have. But thanks for the great work.
OK, thank you, David. Appreciate it. 0345 6060 973. Ian says, didn't we vote against having to carry an ID card? Yes and no. I mean, it's not carrying an ID card. You don't have to go out. It's not like America, where you have to carry an ID card with you at all times. No, we didn't want that, apparently. But now, because it might enable them to win where perhaps they might not have done, the Conservative Party are all behind this Republican move, because all of their best ideas come from America, like some of their best money, I'm sure, comes from the same people that put Donald Trump in power, and the same policies. I mean, if you just keep trying them over and over again, it might not work first time, but eventually it will, and just by small increments. Every little helps, yes? Of course. Voter suppression, that's what it's all about. It's part of Rishi Sunak's drive for integrity.
This government will have integrity at every level.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello? Number, please. Trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Yes, I'm calling in St Ives, a bloke called Jay. Jay, sorry to keep you waiting.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, Jay.
What I wanted to sorry, I'm just like falling asleep. So basically,
you're in a car, Jay. Are you driving?
Yeah. Yes, I'm working.
You're falling asleep in your car while you're driving.
Listening to you.
Okay,
sorry.
All right. Thanks, Jay. 0345 6060 973. I mean, he probably didn't mean it like that, but that's not a very good start, is it? Oh, I'm falling asleep listening to you. And I'd like a lot of time on your show to express my opinions. Yeah, sure. Yeah, here's all the time that you're going to get. Time's up. Heidi texts, did you hum Tiny Tim's Tiptoeing Through the Tulips when you did your weather? Yes. Yes, I did. Because I've been tiptoeing, well, not through the tulips exactly, but around them. I've been looking at them, but not tiptoeing through them in Kew Gardens, which is looking absolutely fantastic these days. In fact, I tweeted some snaps of some snaps I took on my phone of Kew Gardens. I stuck it up Twitter today, and you can see that and everything else that's up there just by using your device. Paul says, you mentioned storms and flood warnings in the southwest, and yet there is a hosepipe ban in Cornwall and parts of Devon. Get lost. Is there? What? A hosepipe ban already? It's not even May yet. Darren says, any views on the white paper for gambling? I think it's a disgrace telling us how much money we can spend. If you buy the Racing Post every day, you go over the monthly limit threshold of £125. Is that? Do they put that out every day? The Racing Post, is that still a thing? Rachel says, I hear many Turkish voters are praising Erdogan for doing his best. That's the one thing he has in common with Bojo. Oh, leave him alone. He's doing his best.
Yeah. Wait.
I mean, at least Fishy doesn't get that. God, that was so infuriating when Mr. Blobby was our Prime Minister, and people, regardless of what he did, you get people on the phone saying, oh, leave him alone. Doing his best. The Prime Minister of the country, not a 5-year-old who's just been asked to clean up his room. Although he does dress like a 5-year-old that's just been asked to clean up his room. Did you see him coming out of what I can imagine is his house, looking like that? I mean, can you imagine what the inside of his house looks like if he comes out of it looking like he's slept in a skip? But, it's an act that's been working pretty well for him his entire life. He presents himself as though he can't dress himself, which brings out people's mothering instincts from where comes, leave him alone, he's doing his best. At least Fishy Sunak doesn't get that. Mr. Skinny Tie short suits with that bloomin' hair.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
You just don't. 0345 6060 973. Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick.
Mike.
Yeah, a couple of bits, really. The Turkish smug thing, I nearly agree with you. I had it down as the score draw. Could do one on passion, honesty and conviction, and he kept his cool and kept deflecting and diverting.
Yeah. One of his greatest abilities is to use politeness as a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely so. But anyway, by the by, we nearly agree on that one.
Yeah.
Did you see the Edward Lucas thing earlier on in the week? The investigation into Smug's direction when he was in the Cabinet Office? That anyone that the government, any expert, scientist, etc., the government invited to a conference had to give up their social media for scrutiny.
Oh, yes.
And it turns out that these experts were deplatformed.
Exactly, yes. By snowflake ministers like Jacob Smug.
And after all that going on we had over them attacking the university,
yes,
deplatforming people. But it's sinister, Nick, because if they get an expert in to talk about AI or climate change or green energy, and then because they've criticised the government on Rwanda,
they don't even have to have criticised them. They don't even have to have criticised them. All they had to have done was to retweet something that was a joke, a parody account, I think is what one of them retweeted. A parody account, I think it was of Liz Truss.
Absolutely.
And that got them deplatformed, banned.
I mean, stopping protests, deplatforming experts. It's people ought to wake up and just keep an eye on this.
Yeah, wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. We have an authoritarian regime.
Another one. Did you see Lord Daniel Moylan being interviewed on Sky?
No.
The interviewer said to him, it appears that everyone who's been in contact with Boris Johnson ends up soiled. Do you feel soiled? And Thursby was offended, but the critical thing, his defence of it was, he said people insist on attacking Trump and Boris by attacking the people around them. That's how they try and get at these people.
Oh, for crying out loud. Well, the people that are around them are a reflection of the person at the centre.
Exactly. And he did well to keep his cool because he was furious with the presenter.
Moylan.
Oh, dear me. And then the last bit.
And finally, yes.
Simon Case has come up again with this Richard Sharp thing.
Yeah.
And you look at Simon Case, Cabinet Secretary, his job is to, help the Prime Minister get government business through and also to advise him of how to remain within the rules.
Yeah.
He had to recluse himself, hence we got Sue Gray from Partygate. Now he's advised this Richard Sharp, or Richard Sharp asked him to get involved in the Prime Minister's own credit line to enable credit for the Prime Minister, and the man's still in post.
I have detailed files on this whole credit facility that has been extended to Boris Johnson, and it just blows my mind. I mean, it's the stuff that you see on a weekly basis, and there's just so much that comes at you. I mean, already I've had, a dozen different stories that are jaw-droppingly amazing that people have thrown at me that's just happened this last week, since Sunday.
It's been busy.
It has, yes. It's hard to keep up, I know. I mean, do you do anything other than, keep up with dip yourself in the misery of the news all day long?
No. I'm actually mostly out sort of 8 to 10 hours a day outside doing other things.
Oh,
but I do keep a track on it. So
yes.
There's certain sites, if you go on, it kicks the headlines up, and then you can do 5 minutes research into each, and you think, oh my God, you've got to be depressed. You've got to work hard not to get depressed with this.
Yeah,
it's relentless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just so much more pleasant just to escape it. I mean, I can totally understand people who don't want to follow the news, who just don't want to let it impinge on their lives, because they're quite right in thinking that there's precious little that they personally can do about it. So you can either just spend your entire life in despair or spend your entire life on a mental holiday. Doesn't that sound great? Yeah.
Well, join the party, but do a little bit of work for the party.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. So I've got Boris's £800,000, which is stunning enough as it is. I've got more on this voter ID con thing. And royal headlines taken from just 2 days this week, including one story about Princess Di, which is just absolutely priceless. So I'll come to that and more after the new news at 11 o'clock on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Yeah! Dude!
Here are the studio calls flashing up on the indicator.
Yes, flashing up on the indicator. Let's see who we're going to have in this hour first off. The person that has been waiting the longest, and this hour's first winner is Ranjit in Oldbury. Ranjit.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for taking my call.
Ranjit.
Yeah. You know what? I always say that Donald Trump supporters are dinglings, yeah?
Yes.
Okay? But I met one the other day, and they're your number one fans. It was a gentleman called Martin and a lady called T. They came up from Chelmsford to visit me.
What,
T, her name is.
Just the letter, or
T? Yeah,
or the drink?
She says like the drink. She said to me, right, and she lives in partly in England and partly in Florida. And she said, look, when we're in Florida at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we crack open a beer and we listen to Nick Abbott, and we like hearing myself here. I said, okay, that's fine. And you know what? She wasn't a dingling, but she loved Donald Trump, and I just couldn't believe it. It's such a nice lady, right? And how she can believe it, right? Okay, I said to her, look, you know what? I said, I just can't understand you. I said, you're such a nice person.
Yeah.
And she goes, I love, the way they speak, right? I said, okay. So I'm supposed to say hello, and I've said hello to them.
Right. Hello, dinglings.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing, okay, I want to talk slightly about Jerry Springer, right?
Yes.
In this, in our lovely country, we got a class of people. You got the self-employed, the unemployed, the employed, and the unemployable, right? The unemployable, I reckon they used to watch our version of Jerry Springer, right? And that's why this country's gone down the pan. Right,
Jerry Springer is why this country has gone down the pan? Or our version of Jerry Springer?
Our version of the Jerry Springer. The show I'm on about in the mid-morning, right? They used to watch it. Yeah. And I know people that come into my shop that, they said they went to, have, like, to see if they can get on there. And some people went in with nice clothes on. They said, no, go back and wear a hoodie. Right, yeah. And you're going to be able to swear this, that, and the other.
Yeah. See if you can get a swastika tattooed on your forehead, something like that.
That's it. Yeah. So that was a part of the rehearsal or whatever it was before you can go on there.
Yeah.
Right, and people was watching that, and that's what they've been emulating everything. That's why. Like we blame the Tories, and I blame Joe Public, because Joe Public, the last 15 years, or 13 years, they haven't got off their backside, right, to get this shower out, right? And then we blame, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, right? Because they're saying, listen, you idiots, right? I'm going to do what I want. There's nothing you can do. And now we're in this situation, right, that a senior citizen's bus pass is okay, but somebody like 24 who's got a bus pass, can't use.
Not okay.
Isn't that ageism?
Yeah.
It's not okay. Isn't that ageism?
It's not ageism. It's just a way to boost boost the Tory vote, but to suppress those that might be considered non-Tory voters.
I agree with you, yes. We know what it's for because I'm involved in local politics. I'm not standing anyway. But what I'm saying is we've been going on about this, right? These people have planned it. Boris Johnson, one of his first lies was, right, and nobody really picked him up on it. He come out, the way he does, right, pulling his trousers up and sticking it up his bum, yeah? And he goes, I did the, honourable thing and I voted in my local elections in my constituency. Someone went, oi, mate, there's no elections in your constituency. Right? Okay. So I would have asked him then, right? I would, if I was on your show, I would have invited you to have a three-way conversation. Now, explain to me, Mr. Johnson, where did you actually go and vote?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Absolutely no idea. It's I think he threw up in a post box, and maybe that's what he calls voting. I have got no idea, Ranjit, but leave it with me and I'll have a full report on your desk first thing in the morning. Thanks a lot, mate. Paul says, you mentioned storms and flood warnings in the southwest, and I've read that. Mark says, these blooming vote-rigging Tories, eh? Well, I suppose you've got to accuse someone of something on a Friday night. What's the problem with asking legitimate citizens to bring some legitimate ID to voting? Well, the problem, Mark, is what are you actually trying to solve by getting people to bring legitimate voting? What is it that you're trying to solve? What crime is it that you're trying to solve? And the truth is that there is no widespread voter fraud in this country. There just isn't at all. This was a column in the Evening Standard. Boris Johnson used... No, that's not the one. This is a column in the Evening Standard by Aisha Hazarika. When we think of attacks on democracy, we think of dramatic moments like military coups, but the reality can be more boring but just as dangerous, like voter suppression, which is happening here in the UK. The government has changed how you can vote. If you were on the electoral register, you could turn up at your polling station. Now, you must show a specific form of photo ID, and if you don't have it, you go home. No vote. The reason cited is voter fraud, like that nice chap whose message I was just reading. Hasn't got any idea. Thinks it's perfectly legal, decent, honest and true. But it is an invented problem being used to import a denial of democracy. Last year there was one caution issued by the police. One. For a bit of context, Downing Street received 126 fixed penalty notices over Partygate. Tories cite Tower Hamlets Mayor Lutfur Rahman, who was found guilty of election fraud and removed from office back in 2015. But this case actually proves the current system works. It discovered fraud and punished him. His case was also more to do with postal votes than people impersonating people at the polling station. If you're genuinely worried about dodgy postal votes, these voter ID plans don't address that. But that's not what this is about. And is it proportionate or fair to impose a bureaucratic new system on 70 million people across the country based on what happened in one London borough? People also cite the fact that you need ID to pick up a parcel. That's because people do try to steal parcels. They're not trying to steal votes, despite what Donald Trump says. The new proposal, which kicks in at the local elections on May the 4th, a couple of days, those elections not happening in London, it matters because of who it will affect. Cabinet Office figures estimate 2.1 million people could lose out, and they will tend to be from ethnic minority communities, the less well-off, renters who are more transient, and younger people. These citizens are also more likely to vote for the Labour Party. And they will tend to be from... sorry, I got screwed up. I'm not really... How long does it take for a cold to go, for crying out loud? Because my brain is still a bit swimmy. Not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
So where was I? These citizens are more likely to vote Labour, and with a tight election on the horizon where the stakes are high, a spot of voter suppression could make a difference. Every little helps. But it's not just Labour voices who are worried. Many on the right are nervous that older Conservative voters could turn up at a polling station with an old driving licence or passport with a photo from 15 years ago, and they too will lose their vote. Although older people are allowed to use their travel passes as ID, while younger people are not. Wonder why? There was always a desire in political parties to increase voter participation in elections. This bad faith, cynical move will reduce the franchise. Democracy is about fair competition and a level playing field. This is the opposite. Ahead of the general election, we need the mother of all voter registration campaigns to start right now. But what's the point? Because we just had a deadline for getting your voter ID, and something like 4% of those who need it could be bothered to go and get one. So, people aren't actually bothered, are they? And that's why we're in the position that we're at. Istanbul. Why isn't that working? One moment. Istanbul. Hello, Bernard.
Yeah, hello, Nick. Yes, nice to talk to you again.
Bernard.
From a long way away.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to make a small argument for the role of independence. I've been living outside the United Kingdom for more than 50 years. I'm 78 years old.
78 years old.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But it means that my view is that of an outsider, which is, of course, different for people living there. Mm. But looking back and looking across the unfolding line of criminal, shall I say, unbelievable behaviour that's been going on in a way since Thatcher, as far as I'm concerned, is it looks as if it's reaching higher and higher points of perfidy, of infamy.
Yes.
But there's one beacon of hope, and it's coming from the place that I was born, and it's Middlesbrough, and the 4th of May, people can really make a difference by voting for...
Well, sadly, we're going to have to leave that call there, because it's too soon to the 4th of May to be giving people instructions on who to vote for. But I appreciate the effort there, Bernard. Caught that one just in time. Phew. Thanks a lot, mate. Call me after the election, and then you can discuss your opinions in full. Neil emails, the Conservatives in Norwich have printed on the back of their leaflets that you do not need to take ID with you to vote on the 4th of May. You just have to be registered to vote. Could be a mistake, but worth noting that the Conservatives in Norwich were investigated before for electoral fraud. Is that a fact? Investigated ain't nothing. Were they convicted? That's the important part. Daniel says, have you noticed the recent... Oh, stop moving stuff around. I don't have any control over the screen. It's just jumping all over the place, like I'm trying to read a screen on a roller coaster. You're messing with my melon, man.
I was just showing you that leaflet, that's all.
What leaflet?
The one that the gentleman was on about.
Oh, the gentleman. Yeah. Right. Polling stations are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is the leaflet from the Conservative Party. It states, you don't need to take any ID in order to vote. Liar! Yes, you do. It says if you've got a postal vote but haven't sent it back yet, you can take your completed postal vote to any polling station. Remember to include your declaration of identity. You don't need to take any ID in order to vote, so long as you are registered, it says, which is completely incorrect in every respect. They don't know their own blooming laws. Right, so... over and above that, Daniel says, have you noticed that recently Agent Orange, or Ancient Orange as I call him, seems to have graduated from that peach powder puff shade of fake tan to full-on cuprinol dark oak wood stain?
Don't be rude.
Yeah. I had noticed that, yeah. I don't know what colour he actually calls that, but no human has ever come in that colour before. Brenda emails, reference BBC chairman finally resigning. How much longer are people in this country going to put up with the daily corruption from the Tories on a gargantuan scale? I can't stand it, says Brenda. P.S. The only thing to look forward to each week are your shows. Oh, cheers, Brenda. Appreciate it.
you.
Not forgetting your glamorous assistant, of course. What have you done? It's your fault that he's moving on. Hey, you moving on today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Last show tomorrow. Oh, it's going to have to be a good one. There'll be celebration in the air. Yeah, what is the fault? What is wrong with Boris Johnson, by the way? I mean, seriously, how on earth does he need 800 grand? What's he going to use it for? Boris Johnson used a distant millionaire relative to act as a guarantor for an £800,000 credit facility while he was in Downing Street, according to a report.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
A spokesmodel for the former Conservative leader, when asked about the report, said all of Mr Johnson's finances are and were properly declared.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
He lied. According to the Sunday Times, Canadian businessperson Sam Blythe, reportedly worth $50 million, agreed to act as a guarantor for a credit facility for the then Prime Minister. Like the then Prime Minister is, like 10. He was the leader of the Tory party, a party stuffed with people who tell those on benefits that they are scroungers and can't control their spending and are living off others. Well, Bodger earned 87 grand a year as an MP, plus 80,000 as a Prime Minister, plus £250,000 in expenses, and he never appeared to pay for anything. He got someone else to pay for his holidays, he got someone else to pay for his meals, he got someone else to pay for his furniture, and he got someone else to pay for his housing. That's us poor dopes who pay taxes did that. And after all that, he still needs 800 grand from someone else for walking around money. I mean, he's an incontinent cash spigot. It's like he's trailing a hose pipe behind him that just sprays money down the drain. What does it all go on, given that he doesn't appear to pay for anything? I mean, according to this report, the person who guaranteed the 800 grand, Sam Blythe, is a friend of Boris Johnson's dad. Their mothers are said to be cousins. Are you following this?
No.
No, me neither. I mean, who doesn't ask a complete stranger to guarantee an £800,000 loan if their mothers were said to be cousins? I mean, what does that even make them? The credit was said to be available from February 2021 to help, quotes, with Mr Johnson's day-to-day expenses. 800 grand, day-to-day expenses. What's he doing, running a bookies? Mr Johnson's spokesmodel stressed that he did not take a loan from Sam Blythe. OK, that's very interesting. So could you tell us who you did take a loan from then, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
I mean, seriously, who is the person or institution that you got 800 grand from? Because we don't know. I mean, wouldn't you be curious to find out who the Prime Minister of the country was in hock for 800 grand? Isn't that pertinent information that we poor dopes who pay taxes should know? The Times newspaper said that he needed the financial provision despite earning £164,000 as Prime Minister, with an anonymous source cited as saying that Bodger was on the verge of going broke. And there were fears that he wouldn't be able to pay his own tax bill.
What?
That man used to be in charge of the country. And he can't stop throwing money around like a drunken sailor. And dresses like he's a drunken sailor. Like a drunken sailor that got dressed in the dark during a storm at sea.
Booze.
Bodger's spokesmodel said all of Boris Johnson's financial interests are and were properly declared, which sounds very much to me like, don't question us, peasant. I want to know who that money is from, don't you? 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Shut up.
I can't. 0345 6060 973. Erith. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Nick. I just need to take you off loudspeaker, sorry.
Yes.
Right, sorry. Hello, Nick.
Steve.
I got £300 today.
£300?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from? It's mine.
The government.
Oh.
No, the government. I didn't even know. Someone said to me, did you get your £300? I said, from where?
Yeah.
They said, the cost of living. The government are giving certain people on benefits. I don't know about all of it. But that's not what I called in for.
Don't spend it all in the same shop. Oh, too late. You already have.
Yeah, well, but I called in about the telly. You said about telly.
TV, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly rubbish. I mean, just quite astonishing how much rubbish is on.
You're right, because I've not watched one for about 5 years.
What?
I ain't. I've got a TV.
Yeah.
But
what do you do with it?
Well, nothing till Saturday. And it was hard work because I have to use crutches. I'm disabled.
Yeah.
But I had to get in the loft to deal with the aerial to sort all that out.
You're on crutches and you got into your loft. Blimey.
I had to because
right.
No, I've been asking for a while and not getting the help.
Yes.
But my point is, with what you said, I spent about half a day doing that. It was such a struggle.
Right.
And the next day I couldn't move. But I've not watched it since. I turned it on, flicked through every channel.
And nothing on, yeah. I mean, I just don't really understand how they can, first of all, how they can produce so much rubbish, and second, how they've got the nerve to put it on television. I mean, it's just absolutely staggering how bad TV is.
It is, but it seems to me as well, even on them freeview, it's the same stuff that was on 5 years ago when I stopped watching.
Yeah. If it's not the exact same programme, then it's programmes that look exactly like them. Everything's a blooming do-up-for-property show or cook dinner show for people who are eating baked beans straight out the tin.
Yeah, that's true. But I was flicking through while I was waiting to get through to your show.
Yeah.
And I come across, there's a channel called, it's a freeview channel, it's called 60s something. It just plays 60s pop videos. So
really?
That might be worth a look in.
Well, that doesn't sound actually that bad. 1960, not that there were many pop videos in 1960s, so it's like probably the same three just over and over and over again.
More than likely.
Yeah.
But I've just noticed now, Alice Cooper is on.
Is he?
It's a documentary.
Oh, right. That's Sky Arts, probably.
It is.
Yeah, not that interested in Alice Cooper, really. I mean, a couple of songs are okay, but overall, he's a golf-playing conservative, so not for me.
Yeah, but that's it. I'm not watching it anyway. I'll listen to your show.
Right, okay. Excellent choice there, Steve. Good work. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. I mean, I got a newspaper in the palm of my hand, as a matter of fact, and it's one that I just pulled from it was about to go in the bin. And I like the crossword on the back of the Telegraph. And coincidentally, on the inside cover is the TV guide. And this is from Wednesday. And I just don't bother looking at channels 1 to 5 anymore because there's nothing ever on. I mean, there's nothing ever on Channel 5. So I don't bother with that at all. Or ITV. Nothing on ITV that is, apart from Loose Women. Hey, Carol.
What?
Yeah, Loose Women, which I don't watch either. There's nothing on BBC One all week long, apart from the Blessed Fiona with Antiques Roadshow and Match of the Day. And that's it. 2 programmes in the entire week. All of the rest of it's just stupid. It's filler. I don't know why they bother. I mean, who is actually watching Escape to the Country and The Bidding Room and Unbeatable and Pointless and Clean It, Fix It and all this nonsense rubbish that they're just pouring on the television just in order to stay open? Just shut it down. Open at 6. Save a lot of money. Who's going to miss it? What's amazing to me is that BBC One used to be the stupid channel and BBC Two used to be the smart channel. Now BBC Two is just the overflow stupid. They can't squeeze enough stupid programmes on BBC One anymore, so they have to have an overflow channel to mop up the stupid that they can't fit on BBC One. It's staggering how much stupid that they can squeeze on BBC Two. And this week, okay, so I picked maybe the wrong day because they had the snooker on and on. It's just like hour upon endless hour of people potting balls, and it could not be more interesting.
Boring.
So dull. So that was 5 hours in the afternoon they had snooker on. So it wasn't an ordinary week. But I bet there wasn't one single programme that they ditched in order to put the snooker on that would be worth watching ordinarily. It'll all be deciding which country that you want to live in. Who cares? You want to live in Australia? That's great. Go to Australia. Or it's doing up some cheap house with 10 grand. You decide to put the toilet in the kitchen and ask the viewers if they think that's a good idea. And so on. It's like cooking shows and property shows and escape to another country shows or they're following around police persons nicking perps. Who wants to see that? Or stopping people at the border coming in through customs. And it's just endless. Where is the value in all of that rubbish? Why are we paying for it? I mean, if you just shut the station down and opened at 6 p.m. and concentrated on spending your money on programs that people actually might want to watch, rather than just sort of killing time, gawping brainlessly at the screen, then I think that would be better for all of us. Unless that's a controversial thing to say, in which case I withdraw it. Hell, I should be the next chairman of the BBC. I'll show him some stick. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 11:30, the news headlines with Daryl Jackson.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I am not one of your fans!
George says, you've got to feel sorry for Rishi. He's on wife support. Chris says, is it your glamorous assistant's last night? Before he goes, can you get him to say mad for it? No and no, in that order. Ty says, have you seen that road sign in Wales asking motorists to remove their false teeth because the potholes may damage them due to excessive rattling? I looked it up just to make sure that I wasn't being duped. And there is a road sign in Wales, but I don't think that it's a genuine one, because it says, caution, remove dentures, adjust bra straps and secure your... See, that part I can't actually say out loud. But this lady does.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
Yeah, secure them. Welcome to the worst maintained road in the country, courtesy of Carmarthenshire County Council. See, it's not an actual official website. Sign thing. Yeah, like I said, my brain hasn't quite, it's not come to... This is the sound between my ears right now. Yeah, has been for about 3 weeks now. But you know me, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
When does this thing go? I mean, it's just the weirdest cold. Just on and on and on. Kingston, hello, Sophie.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Sophie.
Hi, I didn't expect to be on. Anyway, I just thought I'd give a bit of cheer to people with disabilities.
Yes.
That regarding ID, that I have learned first of all, you're absolutely right that people in Greater London are not voting.
Yes.
And I'm in Greater London. Right. But I've also learned that if you've got a blue badge, you can use that as ID.
Yes.
Now, people might think, if you've got a blue badge, you can drive. Well, my daughter's got profound learning disabilities, and her support workers drive. I don't. I've never driven a car, so I don't have a licence either. But my daughter's never been out of the country. She hasn't got a passport. But anyway, she's got a blue badge, and when it comes to voting, she can vote with her blue badge.
Right.
So people with blue badges out there, if you haven't got a driving licence, if you haven't got a passport, you can vote.
And the thinking there, I'm sure, is that people with blue badges are more likely to be older, and people who are older are more likely to vote Conservative.
Yes, but lots of people with blue badges, like my daughter, are not older. They're not older. My daughter's only 32.
Right.
So there's masses of people with blue badges
But
that
I'm
have
saying
disabilities.
that, of course, that's correct. But I'm saying that by and large, if you had to see the average age of those with a blue pass, then it would be older, and by and large, older people vote Conservative. So that's why they've included that, and not, for instance, a student ID card or a student rail card or a young person's bus pass or any of those things that apply generally to younger people.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right, Nick. Yeah. I mean, you're always right.
Well, that's not
What
true.
can I say? What can I say?
All right.
But, yeah, you take care.
Thanks a lot, Sophie. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Darren texts, don't forget to buy your glamorous assistant a going away present. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'm going to buy him a going away. Here's your going away present.
Bye-bye.
There you go. Johnny and Sparky emails. I heard a rumour that Suella Braverwolf is seen using some of the dodgy cash that Fishy Sunak gave her, looking for whaling boats on eBay. With your finger on the political pulse of the nation, I figured you'd have heard that, so I thought I'd let you know. You can thank me later. I most certainly will do nothing of the sort. This says, have you seen the clip of the fat Führer talking about the founder of the Soviet Union? Who's the fat Führer?
Trump was talking about Lenin.
Oh, right. Natalie says, 1, I'm sure he had no idea who Lenin was. 2, he definitely has no idea how to pronounce his name. How did he pronounce his name?
Lenin. I'll put the links at the top.
Oh, no, that's okay. Don't worry. He says, what a deeply unwell and mind-bogglingly stupid man he was. What? Oh, is, not was, is, says Natalie. Got to get the tense right. Yet the government is modelling its behaviour on what Donny does, says Natalie. I know. Can you believe it? Everything that this government does, see, it could be seen through the prism of what would Donald Trump do, and which is usually the worst thing in any given situation.
Oh, shut up!
You know that's true, Donny. Now then, Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Nick, how are you doing, buddy?
Good, yeah, good, thanks.
You're on about television programs, the BBC. ITV, I don't know if you... I looked at the couple of programs on the afternoon. They made the competitions, and they're advertising ways to get you out of a chair, the stair lifts.
Yeah.
They actually advertising cremations. They'll cremate you. I don't know what the...
If you sit still too long, you'll get cremated. Yeah.
Anyway, Merthyr's made Private Eye. The back of Private Eye, there's a story about the open cast coal mine here, which is the biggest in Europe. They were given a license about 25 years ago. They excavated about millions of tons of this stuff, and they signed agreements saying we'll put it all back. It'll be just like it was.
It'll be perfect.
And of course, it'll be fantastic. Next thing you know, we still got a hole. 2 years ago, the contract finished. They said we need to do a bit of stabilisation in case of landslides. This and that. They pinched another 100,000 tons of coal out. The Merthyr Council on Wednesday said enough is enough. Stop, and they're there. Now they've discovered that it's going to cost £69 million to fill the hole in. Right?
Blimey, that must be some big hole. £69 million. What are they going to fill it with? Gold?
And guess what?
What?
There's only 16 million tons in the kitty in this fictional country. Yeah, wonderful. It's just looting. Looting is rife in this country.
Well, it certainly is. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There was an excellent article about that. I'll see if I can come up with it. In fact, it was in the New York Times. It was a very interesting article in the New York Times about us here. I'll read you a bit of it, shall I? Leave it with me, Jeff, and I'll look into it. I'll look into that big hole. All right. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. So this appeared in the New York Times. Hey, by the way, have you heard about furries? Hey, have you heard about furries?
Who?
Furries. Furries.
All right.
Furries. No, don't look it up. I'm just asking you if you've heard of it.
No, I've never heard of it.
Right. Well, hot news. I had to look up the story and cross-reference everything that they said in it because I didn't believe that it was a true story. I thought, I'm going to check the date that this story was released just to make sure that it wasn't April the 1st. And it wasn't. It was today. So this is hot news. And while I was reading it, I thought, well, maybe the Mail has actually been duped by some parody site. So I cross-referenced all of the institutions in this story to make sure that they were real, and apparently they are. Furries. Have you heard about that? So I'll come to that in a minute. But this is sort of following on from what that last bloke was talking about. This is from the New York Times this week. It says, as Britain prepares for the coronation of its new king, an end-of-days feeling is sweeping the nation. In an atmosphere of social unrest, economic dysfunction and government corruption, deep political disillusionment has set in. The Conservative Party is polling 15 points behind the opposition, and the popularity of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, the Conservatives' fifth leader in 7 years, remains obstinately low. After years of Tory misrule, the opinion of the British public seems clear. We've had enough. And with good reason. For over a decade, the Conservatives have ransacked the country they claim to love, unmooring it from its foundations and enriching their chums. While the wealth of the very richest rocketed, the party's programme of austerity, begun by David Cameron in 2010 and continued by each Conservative Prime Minister since, has starved public services, created one of the most miserly welfare states in the developed world, and contributed to the longest period of wage stagnation, for many wage regression, since the Napoleonic Wars. Life expectancy is down, child poverty is up, and there are few signs of a reprieve on the horizon. Life under the Tories has become poorer, nastier, more brutish, and shorter. Wow! And that's just the opening salvo of the New York Times. And it goes on at some length. So, you know, if you think that nothing in this country works anymore, then you're not alone. The messages are being received loud and clear 3,000 miles away. 0345 6060 973. Larry the Cat says, can somebody lend me a pair of binoculars? I'm still unable to find any sign of this integrity that Fishy Sunak promised as Prime Minister. Perhaps that cheque got lost in the post.
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Hot furry news coming right up.
On LBC, call 0345 6060 973.
Right, so what are we doing?
Carol, we're doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
Now, the idea is that we solve people's problems while guffawing like a couple of chumps. If you want us to have a bash at your issue, then you must send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com, nickandcarol @global.com, and prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? Now, if you have an hour in the week and you wish to be amused, it'll be right up your alley. It's on Global Player. And again, the title is, What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? I think you'll love it.
Yeah.
0345 6060 973. So I've got hot furry news. I have more about our inability to get our people out of Sudan. But also I've got royal headlines from the last couple of days. God, there's so much. I mean, we're just being pummeled with royal stories, trying to whip us up into some sort of level of interest. Anybody actually really interested?
No.
Not really. Don't think so. Haven't detected it yet. We're trying to make ourselves interested, but with varying levels of success. Cornwall, Malcolm.
Nick, how are you, sir?
Great, mate.
Been a very exciting week, do you not think?
Hasn't it just? Hard to keep up.
Yeah, big day at the BBC today, again.
That's right.
And I've got to mention this, please don't think ill of me, but I stumbled upon Talk TV this evening earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And I was slightly sickened by the sight of one Mr. Kevin Maguire of the Daily Mirror guesting on a show with Zach Goldsmith and Tim Montgomery. And they were on the show of one Nadine Dorries.
Ugh.
Kevin Maguire of the Daily Mirror on Rupert Murdoch's news channel.
Malcolm,
with
you've got to go to where people who don't agree with you reside. If you're going to persuade people, there's no point in just talking to the people who already agree with you.
Well, this is why I flirt with these channels, just to see who's on them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think, Nick, that the events of the last few weeks are rapidly now taking the shine off one Rishi Sunak.
He's got a shine. I mean, apart from all of that stuff on his hair, there's no shine about him, as far as I can see.
He had a shine for a short while when he was promising integrity and honesty. And right now,
this government will have integrity
Speaker.
at every level.
Yeah, every level, integrity, sure.
And I think, Nick, that this morning's resignation has opened up a whole can of worms for one Mr. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister.
Why? What's it got to do with him?
Well, he is... this guy Sharp, before the loan and before the BBC, he was pulled into Whitehall, into the heart of government to advise on COVID recovery. And the person who...
To advise on COVID recovery? Oh, you mean the financial aspects of COVID recovery, right? Because he used to be a Goldman Sachs banker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know whose boss he was at Goldman Sachs? One shiny Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
And allegedly, it started to come out that it was Rishi Sunak who recommended him to one Boris Johnson.
Right. Well, that's news to me. I thought it was all Bodger's fault.
Yeah.
It's been much discussed on LBC all day, Nick, to be honest with you. But you've been catching up on your sleep, I dare say, from your late...
I had a disco nap.
Yeah. All your late night entertaining. Now, I disagree with you quite strongly on that Marina Perkis. What's the best way to describe it? Tussle with one smug.
Yeah.
Because I think she did some sterling work. She actually, live on British TV, I mean, an audience of maybe some 30-odd thousand people, I think it is now. They're up to 30-odd thousand. She actually called Smug a liar.
Yeah, but that's not winning an argument.
No, but the point I'm making is, Nick, unless these people are called out for what they are and given the opportunity to deny it, which he didn't, then...
Well, I think he probably did. I mean, he might not have addressed that accusation directly, but he'd never admitted that he lied.
Then he didn't deny it, Nick. And that, in terms of this government, means a lot. When he's accused of lying about cheap shoes for peasants and all of those sorts of things, and he's got nothing to come back with, that, I think, is the start of the end.
It's not that he didn't have anything to come back with. He came back with specifics. You see, this is the problem. If you're going to go on somebody on the opposition's channel, then you need to be able to persuade people who don't agree with you. And I'm not sure that just calling their hero a liar is doing it.
No, but Nick, she's never going to persuade Smug that she's right about him, the first and foremost, right? But
not without specifics. And I'm not really very interested in getting into this. My opinion was that Smug actually won that. And if you know anything about me, then you'll know that I would have come to that conclusion through gritted teeth.
Yes, no, but I urge you to revisit it then in that case, because she also spoke of his bonfire of the laws, and she was saying she told him to his face, with an audience of 35,000, me being one of them, that his law scrapping is going to impinge on the lives of everyday British people,
but without specifics.
No, but look, her job, Nick, is to go on, front him up, and to get people to look.
All right. I'll tell you, the master class in what you're trying to describe is the James O'Brien, Nigel Farage interview, which is still one of my favourite political interviews of all time. And Nigel Farage came on with all of these spurious statistics and so-called facts, and almost like a magic trick, James O'Brien, I don't know where he was getting all this stuff, but he just seems to have a mind like a sort of a bottomless well of information. And he just was plucking facts out of the air to dispute everything that Nigel Farage said, and doing it in such a calm way. And Nigel Farage was getting more and more heated and aggravated. And as Farage got more and more irate, James O'Brien became more and more calm, like some sort of Zen Buddhist. And by that method, he unpicked him molecule by molecule and left him a blubbering wreck on the floor. That's how you do it. You have to be specific. Because if you're going to go on somebody else's show and try to dismantle them, then you can't do it just by calling them a liar. Now, I know that it made a lot of people's dreams come true, that somebody actually stood up to Smug and said it like it was. But if you're going to persuade people who are fans of Smug that they've made the wrong choice, then you ain't going to do it just by attacking him. That's why I think that Smug won, because, and as I've said many times before, he uses politeness as a weapon, and it's a very good weapon too. He also uses religion as a weapon, but that's a separate issue. Politeness as a weapon can be a very good tool, because if other people start to be impolite, then regardless of what the topic is at hand, you've lost if you are the impolite one. I mean, he just studiously is correct at all, even though you don't believe that he thinks this for a moment, that his politeness is exaggerated and not real. Right, you know, I don't buy that act at all, but it works. That's why it pained me to say it, that I thought that Smug won that particular battle. And there's nothing you can say that's going to persuade me otherwise, Malcolm. That's just what I think. All right.
Okay.
Okay, another unsatisfied customer. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. By the way, I think that interview with James O'Brien and Nigel Farage is probably still available on LBC's website. If you haven't seen it yet, then treat yourself. I bet Nigel Farage wakes up in the middle of the night sweating just thinking of it. Hey, don't forget to remind me to tell you about the hot furry news. Very, very important.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laughs.
This is absolute tosh.
Yeah, well, you would say that, wouldn't you, Nige? Was that last story about East Anglian Water? Huh?
I think so.
It was East Anglian Water. They're being forced to pay £2.5 million, which is going to impact them very, very seriously. Yes?
No.
No. For the financial year to the 31st of March last, the company made £96.3 million profit before taxation. £96.3 million in profit. And they're going to pay £2.5 million in a fine. They ain't even going to notice. Watchdog, my eye. Do me a favour. It's just the price of doing business, that's all. Martin texts, I rang the Electoral Commission yesterday to let them know that the campaign leaflet sent by Conservative Central Office stated that no photo ID is required. The chap I spoke to said that the Electoral Commission do not regulate campaign material and there was nothing they could do. There's never anything anybody can do, is there? Oh, yes, we're the watchdog, but no, we don't watch, our dogs don't watch that particular issue. No, that's somebody else's problem, yeah, mostly yours. He said that the others had reported this and that the Conservative Central Office had accepted that an error had been made. He suggested that I complained to the Conservative Party. He just wanted you to get off the phone, Martin. Marjar says, your impression of Lee Anderson is better than your impression of Fishy Sunak. Go for it, says Marjar. I most certainly will do nothing of the sort. And P-Tex, Lumpy Trumpy is due to visit his Turnberry golf course in Scotland next week. No, he is disliked here, says P.
Oh, shut up!
Hey, he's disliked everywhere, apart from with the poorly educated.
I love the poorly educated.
Absolutely loves the poorly educated. You know, the dinglings. Your husband is disliked in pretty much every place he's ever been heard of, Melania.
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. It's not that they have separate rooms, it's they have separate houses in different cities. Leytonstone, Stephen.
Hello. I'd like to phone up and concur with the guy who was talking about the dinglings.
Yeah.
And I was always deluded myself to think that Trump was a bit of a dope, but then I was reminded today on TV there was somebody worse than him, that was Mr. Bush Jr.
Mr. Bush Jr., more of a dope than our Donny. Well, I find that hard to believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned about Joe Public, as the caller mentioned, and I'd just like to phone up to remind you that there was a guy that last week when he was talking about global warming, he thought that the weather in Chelmsford hadn't changed much and he couldn't see the difference.
There's no such thing as global warming because it's still pleasant in Chelmsford.
That's right, yeah. But the other thing that I'd like to be concerned about is not only the dinglings now, but I think that the next generation of dinglings are going to come from all those kids that, as a child, got an Apple iPhone.
The children of dinglings will be dinglings. Is that what you're saying? That seems likely.
Well, possibly, yeah. Because I'm offering hope for them, you see, but...
it doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like it, you're offering hope. It sounds like the opposite of that to me.
Well, one can't be too rude on the radio, can one?
Well, I don't think you were being. But I'll say I'll wish you a cheery bye-bye before you change your ways. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Not too rude. Jane texts, have you seen the Brexit debate? Parliament debated, we call upon the government to hold a public inquiry into the impact of Brexit. Like a lot of people, I was feeling pretty jaded by the madness that is Brexit, but I tuned in, and this was brilliant. The 3 hours flew by as speaker after speaker talked about the catastrophe that is Brexit. The tide is finally turning, says Jane, who is completely incorrect in every respect. The tide is not turning, as in we're not changing the direction of travel. We're not going backwards towards the European Union. We're going forwards away from it to reach our glorious future. No more EU laws, except there will be. Okay, this is the story about... Don't let me forget about the furries, by the way. If you have to leave the show, by the way, because, tiredness is overcoming you and you just can't take it anymore, then this show does get stuck up the internet as a podcast. So don't forget that, because we take the news and most of the ads out. Which means it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity. And with the money you save, you'll be able to buy a sitting MP for about 2 minutes.
10,000 sterling.
10,000 sterling. So if you have to leave us, remember that the show gets stuck up the internet as a podcast. Now, the magic phrase is play Nick Abbott, the Whole Show podcast, if you've got one of them stupid smart speakers. If you want to look it up online, it's only on Global Player, which is free. You can download it from your app store or go to globalplayer.com. And the podcast of this show is stuck up the internet on Global Player, and the phrase again, Nick Abbot, The Whole Show Podcast. That's how to get The Whole Show Podcast, which is different from the catch-up, which I probably shouldn't have mentioned because it's just going to confuse you, as it does me. Remember, Nick Abbot, The Whole Show Podcast. I am going to mention the furries story because that is excellent news and is very weird. I had to double-check that I wasn't being duped, but apparently not. Apparently it's a real thing. So I'll come to that in a minute. I also want to do royal headlines as well. But you know they were going to scrub 4,000 EU laws. You remember the EU? Yeah, that's right. And it was part of Smug's little scheme to get rid of 4,000 laws, you know, most of which are in place in order to benefit you, the consumer. You, the human being. You, the worker. You know, they don't just make this stuff up to be irritating. It's for our protection. Despite pledges to scrub more than 4,000 laws from the statute book, only 1 in 5 European Union laws is set to be scrapped in Fishy Sunak's so-called Brexit bonfire. What? Only 1 in 5? Why, that's nearly 20%. The Prime Minister gave his public backing in January to what's called the Retained EU Law Bill, which is the opposite of what it looks like. It's not retained EU law. They're going to ditch the EU law, abolish more than 4,000 EU laws before the end of this year. I mean, what kind of numpty thought that that would be a good idea?
My view.
Exactly. However, in a briefing to senior Tory Eurosceptic MPs on Monday, Kemi Badenoch, the Trade Secretary, said that only 20% of those laws, not 4,000, just 800, were likely to be scrapped. Isn't that an absolute tragedy?
No.
No. I mean, why aren't we getting rid of all those hated EU laws, like the one that says, like the laws about, got no idea. And neither do you. And neither do they. They were going to get rid of 4,000 laws without actually reading what they were. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. The number that Kemi Badenoch is proposing to remove is smaller than the 1,400 EU laws which were found in the National Archive as part of a Whitehall hunt for needless EU laws. I mean, you remember that hunt, don't you? When Smug asked the readers of The Sun which EU laws they most disliked. And answers came there none. I mean, that's pretty embarrassing. That top-hatted twiglet, his entire position in government used to be to seek out Brexit benefits. Couldn't find a single one. They got so embarrassed about it that they axed that job entirely. That job doesn't exist anymore. Kemi Badenoch, as in bad enough to be a part of this government, reportedly told MPs that civil servants had told her it was impossible to remove 4,000 EU laws, the vast bulk of which are in the Environment Department. Which is typical. Bloomin' activist lefty civil servants holding us back, denying the ordinary, hard-working people to be free of restrictions that they don't know exist. But it makes sense because you just can't throw out laws that prevent people from being poisoned or the land ruined or the air polluted. I mean, the kind of laws that are there to protect us. And Conservative MPs know this and acted accordingly, by which I mean they threw a fit you could see from space. Conservative MPs told The Telegraph they were furious. But being furious is what defines them. They exist in a permanent state of purple agitation. The meeting with the ERGs, the European Research Group's grandees, on Monday soon descended into acrimony. One MP told The Telegraph it really was a bad meeting. Well, of course it was. It was the ERG. Naturally, it was a bad meeting. A second Conservative MP pinned the blame on Kemi Badenoch personally, saying, "You need a tough minister, but she's a lame minister who is having rings run round her by Remainer officials." We need a tough minister, and Kemi is proving to be a huge disappointment. I bet there's not one single one of those ERG swivel-eyed Fruit Loops that has any idea which laws they don't want on the books. It's just a feeling that they've got, that they've been denied the Brexit they dreamed of, principally because it doesn't exist. Those sunlit uplands are overcast and raining. I mean, they dreamed of being buccaneers, didn't they? Riding the ocean wave of glorious Brexit Britain, telling other countries to do what we say because we're British, damn it. And to use Dominic Raab's turn of phrase, when he was dismissing a disabled woman calling for less cuts to disabled benefits, all of that buccaneering stuff is just a childish wish list. That's what Dominic Raab said.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Totally believe you. But one particularly purple Tory MP said that because Bad Enough won't get rid of all EU laws at a stroke, that her chances of being the next leader are over. Because some people think that Kemi Badenoch is in a race to see how dreadful she can be to compete with Cruella Braverman and Priti Patel and Steve Barclay and, you name it. They all seem to be on evil manoeuvres to be the next leader of the Tory party. Once the fishy uses up all of his integrity.
This government,
Mr. Speaker. And the ERGers are extra angry, of course, because it's Friday. Or there's a vowel in the month, or they don't really need a reason because they're especially unhappy that their beautiful Brexit is taking another hammering from reality. Reality makes them very angry. Conservatives are unsure, whether Number 10 had been briefed on Bad Enough's plans for that bill to get rid of all the EU laws, the retained EU law bill. Rishi will be livid, said one of the MPs. Oh, yeah? Why's that, then? Is he livid because we're being held back by environmental laws designed to protect, the environment? Has the Tory party now added the environment to its list of woke things to be against? I bet ruining the environment is his number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
That will be our focus. Mr. Speaker. A government source said of Kemi Badenoch, she is a true Brexiter. She delivered the CPTPP to show the country a brave future outside the EU. And she's now got a grip of the process. She's got a grip, fishy.
I'm gripping it.
He's gripping it too. And as for the CPTPP, the benefits of that to the economy are negligible at best. I mean, we've already got bilateral trade agreements with 9 of the member countries of the CPTPP. We've got 0 trade tariffs with most CPTPP members already. So forecasts have suggested that the economic gains from that membership are going to be small. The fine print of the government's own analysis shows that the deal is set to increase GDP, gross domestic product, by 0.08% over the next 15 years, which is 5,000% smaller than what we lost leaving the EU. But apart from that, everything's going just fine. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC.
This is Leading Britain's Conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
David texts, we live in a country where we have an unelected House of Lords and an unelected Prime Minister. Next Saturday, we'll crown an unelected head of state. And on Thursday, I have to take my bus pass to prove I am me to vote for a local councillor. What a state, eh? Fife. Paul.
Evening, I should say morning now.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing, Nick?
Good, thanks.
Excellent.
Sorry for the long wait, everybody, but I've been trying my best to get through these calls as fast as I can. I know that people have been waiting a very long time, so apologies for that.
I don't have to apologise. I think it's fine. Enjoying the show. It's good fun.
Thanks.
No, I was just listening to you. a while back they were mentioning about, obviously, Rishi Sunak and everything that's going on with the chair at the BBC and this, that, and the next thing. But on top of that, you've got the SNP at it as well, by the looks of things now. So, literally, where do you go? Who do you vote for, and what do you do? You've got a garden full of weeds, and you need a rotavator to weed them all out.
Yeah, tricky. I know. It's tricky. Who to vote for? Just pick the least bad option and do that.
I don't think anybody will get anywhere when our election 2-3 months down the line again for another hung parliament, I think would possibly happen.
The worst thing you can possibly do, Paul, is not vote at all. Remember that. Even if you are displeased with the choice that is available, you've got to go and choose one. Promise me you'll do it.
I do, 100%.
Right.
I'm one that whistles around the family. Because have you done that yet? No.
Yes. Okay. Good work.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul. Cheers, mate.
Take care.
0345 6060 973. Rob says, can you please publicise the fact that people can use a photo ID to vote, even if it is out of date, provided that they still look like the photo? The source for that information is the Electoral Commission, he says. A lot of people won't vote if they think they have to get a VAC, that's a Voter Authority Certificate. And, I'm sure that's the plan, to get a lot of people who aren't, totally committed to the choice that they're going to make when they're at the ballot box, that if they don't go and vote at all, I'm sure that would suit the government just fine. Otherwise, why are they doing all this? Don't make no sense. Unless it's voter suppression. And there's the thing that you can do about that is don't let them get away with it. Got to vote.
Why are they doing
Bermondsey. Hello, Lavinia Grace.
Unless it's voter suppression.
Lavinia Grace.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Lavinia Grace.
Oh, hi. Sorry, Nick.
That's all right. I know you've been waiting forever. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. You know what I mean? You're worth it, Nick. You're really you're worth waiting for hours, actually, honestly.
Okay, I'll put you on hold.
No, please. I've been waiting and waiting.
I know you have. Go on.
You know, you're worth waiting for. That's all I can say.
Okay, thanks.
Well, what I'd like to say is that I would like to talk about loads of things.
Yes.
You know, everything. But obviously, you know what I mean, I can only say small things, because if you can bear with me, do you know I have a stammer, Nick?
I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously.
Doing very
and
well.
obviously I have to be careful with my words, because I have to pick them, because certain words,
Yeah.
you know, like S.
Right.
You know, what's the word? Yeah, I get really, really stuck on S's.
Yes.
You know, but what I want to say is that I really, 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 really love LBC, and I'll tell you why I love LBC, because it's education, yeah, and it opens one's mind, you know, because
Well, you
know,
won't. You can rest assured, Lavinia Grace, that you will not get educated on this show.
No, I don't think so.
Exactly.
Right.
Carry on.
Okay. Well, what I would like to say is that loads and loads of things I actually don't like what's happening out there, Nick.
Where?
And if I could outside,
What,
you know...
in Bermondsey? Well, I can understand that.
Well, yes, exactly. There are other places as well, you know, all over the places, you know. And I don't really like what's happening. You know, like when I see the papers, when I see what's going on, it's been going on for the last sort of 20-odd years.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
Yeah, but what I want to say, you know, about this sort of climate change and everything.
Yes, yeah.
And what people need here to remember are our planet is alive. Right, hold on. And when I say it's alive, forget about us humans. You know, I'm actually talking about our.
Everything is interconnected. Yes, I think that's where you're going. I completely agree.
But what I want to say is, like, at the moment, I'm not blaming the people, but I think a lot of people are bogged down with so many things, so many issues, that they can't see the woods through the trees. And what I want to say, Nick, is that I have a feeling in my heart that Mother Earth, you know, our sort of planet, is actually, what's the word, sort of crying of a lack of compassion. And when I say compassion, everybody's out there running after a pound note, but they're not looking around what's going on. And what is going on is our planet, Mother Earth, is slowly dying.
I'm not sure that's true. I think our place on Mother Earth is slowly but surely coming to an end, or at least as we recognise our place on the world. I think that the world will do just fine, because eventually it's just going to shrug us off like it has, the dominant species over time. We're not here forever, and I'm sure that when we're gone, then the Earth will be massively improved.
Well, can I just say one thing that's always on my mind?
Yes.
You know, I love animals, and so I love fish, I love the birds, the bees, all the animals, right?
All the animals that can be made into dinner, is that what you mean?
No. What I want to say, Nick, seriously, you know, like the fish in the water. You know, like a couple of years ago, there were dolphins in the River Thames, right? This is what I read about.
By accident, I think. I don't think they actually wanted to live there. Didn't they get lost?
Yeah, they got lost. But what happened? They died.
Yeah. How stupid are dolphins, by the way? I mean, there's only one way. It's a river, for crying out loud. You can't get lost. You just go out the way you came in.
Yeah, but the most important thing I'm trying to say, Nick, is that what happened, you had the experts opening them up, you know, trying to find out why have they died.
Yeah.
And do you know why they died?
Why?
Because they were
ingestion of sewage and wet wipes.
That as well, and also bin liners, the plastic.
Right.
And that upsets me, Nick, because I'll tell you why.
Well, think how the dolphins feel.
Sorry?
Yeah, upsets you. Think about the dolphins.
Yeah, I know, Nick. But what I'm saying, there's something going on. There's something wrong going on out here.
Yeah.
Because when I look around, you know, like in the countryside where you see all these what you call them, these people
trees
dumping.
Oh.
No, these people dumping rubbish at the countryside.
Yes, morons.
Yeah, morons. But what I'm actually trying to say, it's got worse. And it's like people, us, not you and me, but there's people out there that don't give a damn about our planet, and they're just like
other people, Lavinia Grace.
Our planet.
Yeah, the problem is other people. Always, it's always other people. that's the problem.
Yeah, but as you just rightly said, your planet will go on. But the thing that bothers me is the fish and the animals and the butterflies and the bees. You know, when I go out, you know, I hardly see a butterfly. I hardly see a bee.
No, that's true. That's because there's something like 70% fewer of them than there used to be in the 1970s. I keep saying this, but you can drive a car from one end of the country to the next and not hit one single bug, whereas it used to be you need a flamethrower in the 1970s to get the bugs off the front of your car.
Exactly, but this is what I'm actually trying to say. It's like somebody, or I mean, I obviously care. You care. LBC
so that's just you and me, apparently. Only us. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm actually trying to say, you know, like these people protesting about the, you know, about the climate. You know, I do agree. You know, I do back them in a certain way, and the way is somebody in the government needs to put their neck on the line and speak up and say enough is enough.
What, in speak up in defence of the planet?
Well,
yeah, in defence of the planet and everything that lives on it. Yeah, we're going to wait for a government official to speak up and say something about it. And I think we'll be waiting for a really long time. So I would make yourself a nice cup of tea there, Lavinia Grace, because the wait's going to be a while. But thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Don't forget to remind me about the furries, because you will love this. Just past 12:30 on LBC, the news headlines with Daryl Jackson.
On LBC, call 0345 6060 973.
Some nobody.
I'm sure I played that one already, so I'm repeating now. 0345 6060 973. Chelmsford, Tom.
Hi, Nick. I had to call in because you had a caller in about 10 past the hour who made a reference. You may remember, I don't know how good your memory is, who made a reference to a caller from Chelmsford who suggested that the weather hadn't changed in Chelmsford.
Oh, yes. Who might that be?
Yes. Yeah, in talking about dingerlings. And I don't normally like to talk about academic credentials because I like to think that words speak for themselves, but I do actually... I've studied biochemistry at undergraduate level, so I probably have
you don't
a greater
really
understanding.
Know anything about the subject at all?
Well, I have a probably better understanding of physical science than a lot of the people that claim to.
You studied some science at undergraduate level, and that makes you an expert?
No.
But you are disputing the opinion of experts?
Yes.
Carry on.
Right. Well, if we can just skip one to what your last caller was saying about to do with the insect, the massive loss of insects.
Yeah,
that we
insect
had.
die-off. Yeah, something like 70-80% since the
yeah.
1970s, something like that.
Yeah, so
staggering.
There can be no realistic connection between that and fossil fuel burning or...
I'm not sure that anybody suggests that there is. I think that the cause of that is mostly pesticides.
Pesticides, yeah, chemical usage and stuff.
Pollutants.
Yeah, pollutants, right. And so, I mean, I see the whole focus upon reducing the burning of fossil fuels and carbon emissions and stuff as a bit of a distraction from more important environmental issues such as pollution of waterways and use of chemicals.
Can't we do both at the same time? Can't we save our position on the planet, the delicate area that we live in as far as climate goes, the way that we've organised our lives around water and we depend on the weather being as dependable as it has been, not giving us any major surprises like 6 feet of snow in the middle of winter, which would close this country down pretty much. The lightest dusting shuts us down. But we've grown up with a certain way of living, which in this country means that the climate is fairly reliably clement all the time. Not too cold, not too warm, just right.
And I'll just repeat what I said last week. Being a ding-a-ling as I am,
yes,
it does seem to be the actual climate meteorological conditions, certainly here
in Chelmsford,
have not seemed to have changed all that much.
Right. So therefore, global warming doesn't exist.
It may do, but certainly any kind of strong political movement to
Why should it be political? Why is saving our place on the planet political?
I mean, even by their own statistics, we put out about one.
Whose statistics?
The UN, whatever, I don't know, statistics somewhere official.
Some statistics. Go on.
About 1 or 2%. I mean, we're not a big, massive country. We don't have a lot of industry. I mean, obviously, a lot of what we import.
Right. So you're saying that because Britain, if everybody in Britain actually changed their lifestyle, it wouldn't affect change planet-wide. Yeah. So let's not bother to do anything. Good plan.
More or less, yeah.
Right.
I mean, more or less.
So if there's one person in your street and they didn't bother putting their rubbish in a bin and putting it out for the bin man, then if they just threw their rubbish out the window, then it wouldn't subsume the entire street in rubbish. So they should just get a pass.
Well, I think they sent him back to prison actually. But as in terms of a single man chucking his rubbish in the general waste and not bothering to sort it out into glass and plastic.
No, I mean just throw it into the road. I mean we're not talking about putting it in bins for the bin man and him taking it away.
Most people that do, we did have a neighbour that did that, but as I say...
Right, so you'd want to take action against them. Right. So now we're getting somewhere. So you would want to take action against a country that is not actually doing its bit in order to save the environment, as we are relying on it.
We rely on the fossil fuel industry, and if we put curbs on it, right, that's going to seriously impair our position vis-à-vis
our position.
Very dangerous powers.
It won't impair our position. It would impair the fossil fuel industry's ability to make a profit.
I think Shell Oil is about a third of the FTSE 100.
Well, it isn't
profit.
It isn't.
Perhaps someone could drag that up. Someone on your side could drag that up. Shell B shares their total profit, what they make to the FTSE.
Is a third of the 100 companies that are part of the FTSE 100.
I don't know.
They've been coining it in like bandits, the fossil fuel companies, over the past few years. So there's no doubt that they're making a lot of money. But how would that impact us badly if we stopped pulling oil and coal out of the ground and burning it from this moment on?
Well, our pension.
That's completely misunderstood. That is totally misunderstood. Pensions don't usually invest in stocks because they are too volatile. They usually invest in government bonds, which are much more reliable. So your pensions will not be affected. What else have you got?
Well, my understanding is the government bonds are going to rely on the stability of the pound and the stability of our country, the stability of our military system, the stability of our political system.
Right. So because things might not be beneficial to those who are already spectacularly rich, then we better just keep doing what we're doing. In other words, just keep on this road to hell, because to do anything about it would be inconvenient.
But it's not a road to hell. That's what I'm saying.
But you don't know what you're talking about. We've already established that you don't know what you're talking about. You studied a bit of science at undergraduate level, Tom. Are you kidding me?
More than you have.
Yeah, of course more than I have, but not more than the IPCC or the UN report on climate change.
Right, if I can be a bit flippant, Nick, 95 of theologians would say that God exists. 95 of climate change scientists might say that the climate change is a really big problem. We're all going to hell.
When you said flippant, Tom, you meant stupid.
No, I meant flippant.
No. Well, you might have meant flippant, but what you came out with was stupid. Because you studied science at undergraduate level, you know better than the IPCC working group, which examines the physical science underpinning past, present and future climate change. Scientists from all over the world assessing the rich body of scientific literature, contributing to an ever-strengthening understanding of how the climate system works. All of those people are wrong, and you, Tom, are right because you haven't noticed the change in the weather in Chelmsford. Are you kidding me?
Even if I'm wrong about that, there's nothing that we as a nation can do.
OK, well, let's just forget about it then. Problem solved. Painful. It really is absolutely painful. It's excruciating. I mean, how can you, in all seriousness, come on a radio station and say, I did a bit of science at undergraduate level, therefore what the UN are saying, the entire body of climate scientists, the whole world over, they're all wrong because I haven't noticed a change in the weather in Chelmsford, where I live. Oh. 0345, and we're listening to him. That's the kind of person that we're following on this issue. Because scientists once got something wrong, then we must dismiss all of them forever. You know, until you get sick, and then, of course, you're going to want to listen to scientists to make you better. But apart from them, it's just, it just blows my mind how people with such little information can be so sure of themselves. Everyone's a bloomin' expert these days. Everyone gets to have their own facts. I blame Donald Trump.
Oh, shut up! This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late!
OK, here's the UN report on climate change, released this year. It concludes the following. Human activities, principally through emissions of greenhouse gases, have unequivocally caused global warming. Widespread and rapid changes in the atmosphere, ocean, cryosphere and biosphere have occurred. Continued greenhouse gas emissions will lead to increasing global warming, with the best estimate of reaching 1.5 C in the near term. Every increment of global warming will intensify multiple and concurrent hazards. For any given future warming level, many climate-related risks are higher, and projected long-term impacts are up to multiple times higher than currently observed. Risks and projected adverse impacts and related losses and damages from climate change escalate with every increment of global warming. And that climate change is a threat to human well-being and planetary health. There is a rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. The choices and actions implemented in this decade will have impacts now and for thousands of years. That's what the UN report on climate change has said this year. So you could believe that, or you could believe a chap who opens his front door in Chelmsford and concludes that there is no such thing as global warming because it's still a bit chilly out. He's done his own research. 0345 6060 973. Let's have, let's see now, Plymouth. Hello, Mark.
Oh, hiya, Nick. Hiya. Yeah, it's staggering, really. I've got friends that have similar views, and I spoke to a friend recently about a report by Kew Gardens. They know about plants. Even yes. I think some of your callers might agree on that.
Yes.
And do you know what percentage of wildflowers we've lost since the 1930s?
I'll guess 60%?
Nope, 97%.
Oh, my God.
97%. And I said this to my friend, and I said that's why we talk about insects and bees and the mess we're making of our planet in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And I said 97%. He said, oh, yeah, but that's from the 1930s, though. I said, but another 3%, you haven't any left at all.
Yeah.
And I was having the same conversation with my brother-in-law, who doesn't believe in global warming. He decides to read one report from one scientist and disregard all the others.
Yeah.
and just the arrogance of it.
That's what people do when they say they've done their own research. They just scan the internet for something that agrees with their preconceived ideas, and then they close the internet down. Job done.
Well, if they just stopped and listened to themselves, I mean, it's absolutely baffling. And I was chatting about. He was saying, my brother-in-law was saying, well, the Earth was really hot all this time ago. And I said, yeah, if you listen to science, it was because you had masses of CO2 with volcanic action. That's why. And they measured the CO2 levels by taking ice samples and core samples. And I said to him, we've never, on any record, we've never had the increase in temperatures in such a short space of time as we have now. I mean, the proof is just... I mean, Professor Brian Cox lost his rag in a meeting once, didn't he, with that Australian guy? I mean, these people who... scientists who work for NASA, they've got brains the size of planets.
Yeah. And
you get my brother-in-law, who... it's just... I find it absolutely baffling. I mean, I said, if you're that smart, then you can cure anything. But I'll just ask you.
I tell you, I tell you, it's for two reasons. The first is that if we were to effect a change that would actually be beneficial, never mind about saving the planet. Just forget that part. What we're trying to do here is save our place on this planet. The planet will go on until the sun explodes in the sky. And there's, I don't know how many billion years that's going to be in the future, but it's not something that we have to worry about. What we have to worry about is the way that we've organised ourselves on this planet. We've occupied places, not many as far as the whole planet is concerned, but we've identified the places where human beings can live, where the weather is fairly reliable. It's not going to snow in the summertime, and the rain will come fairly reliably, so that we can grow crops and so on. Once that kind of thing changes, once the rains don't come or they come too much, then people are going to have to up sticks and move from where they live. And we're not talking about a few people, we're talking about hundreds of millions of people. And where do you think that if, for instance, it becomes too hot where they live around the equator, where they're going to go? They're going to come to the clement parts of the country, of the planet, which is where we live. I mean, if you think the small boat people are bad now, just wait. I mean, if you explain it to them like that, then they might actually sit up and pay attention.
Yeah, it's quite frightening, actually. Like you said, the number of people that won't have a home to live in. There was a program not that long ago in a part of Australia, and it was so hot in this street that the roads were melting. Yeah. And they had to plant trees around there to try and get some shelter and water the trees every day because the trees couldn't survive. I mean, it's just how much evidence do people need? I live on a National Trust estate, and the head gardener there has been here for 40 years, and he's had major problems in the last 10 years that he'd never had in the previous 30.
Well, because of lack of water.
It's just the intensity. You get really one of the areas where the garden is. It gets so wet so quickly that a lot of the plants can't cope with it, and then it gets a bit too dry. And so you've got these variations which we didn't have before. Right. And he said he's had plants dying off. Yeah,
exactly right. But we've organised ourselves in places where the weather is fairly reliable. Once the weather becomes unreliable, then we're screwed. But you can't tell people, and even if they live through the catastrophe that is coming towards us, they're going to blame someone else. Oh, well, this sort of thing happens every 1,000 years. It's nothing.
That's exactly right.
I'll just shrug it off. No problem. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mark. I think we're all wasting our time trying to convince people that will not be convinced. What's the point? They're gone. Let them go. We're going to have to do all the heavy lifting ourselves. By which I mean crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, because nobody wants to actually change their lifestyle. That's the other thing. People don't want to lose face by admitting they're wrong, but they also really, really don't want to acknowledge that this is a problem, human activities causing global warming, because to acknowledge it would mean that, by extension, you would have to change your behaviour. And no one wants to do that. Nobody wants to stop consuming stuff. Nobody wants to continue working, peddling furiously to earn money to spend an amount that they haven't got on things they don't need. Our life is completely out of balance. And what's odd is that we kind of like it that way, or we've got used to it. Q. Oh, there you go. Q. Hello, Nick.
Oh, good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I hope you're not losing too much hair over the climate debate. What I was going to say was that my fear is when it comes to the climate change and all that happens from it, people driving EV cars, getting solar panels on their house, that poor people will always get left behind by these things. Yes. When oil goes to 145 a barrel because the oil companies aren't drilling no more because they've been told they can't drill anymore, the North Sea is closed. How do poor people then get a new car? Because they can't afford to buy a new car. They can barely afford to buy food. So how do they buy an EV car? They can't. Right. And that's my fear when it comes to this whole climate change debate, is that the poor people always suffer. No matter which way we turn, the poor people always get left behind. So,
So we need. It's a separate issue. I agree with you, but the answer to what you just described is a more equitable distribution of wealth. I mean, since the 1970s, the value that people have created with their work has not gone to them. They haven't had a taste of any of the money that their work has actually produced. All of it has gone.
700 billion got printed during the pandemic, Nick. Where did that go?
Well, exactly right. Well, we know where it went because billionaires have never had more money. The fortunes of the super rich during the course of the pandemic went up vertically while everybody else flatlined at best. So we don't need to wonder where the money went. We can see it with our own eyes.
But this is the concern, you see. So if I want to get solar panels put on my house, it's going to cost 14 grand, plus maybe even more than that. I recycle. I do my best. Mm-hmm. I do get really annoyed when I get told X, Y, Z by the climate change people, which I completely respect. I respect the research. But when I'm told I've got to do this, but I'm going to get taxed millions for it, how do I go about it all? Because each way I turn, I earn just above an average salary. I can't afford a 14,000.
Right, so I refer you back to the comments I made some moments ago, which was about the redistribution of wealth. I mean, it's just getting worse in this country, not better. People need to have a stake in the value that they create with their work. Even if you're not actually producing something, if you're a nurse or a doctor, then your work has value because it helps people in the general community to stay healthy and keep working. So everyone's work has value. It's just that all of the money that has been created by other people's work has gone not to them. It's bypassed the worker and it's gone straight to the very, very top. And that's why people can't afford anything in this country. But I guess, these are all separate but related issues, and we don't have to just deal with one at a time. If we had a government with integrity, they might be able to actually do two things at once.
This government will have integrity, professionalism, and accountability at every level.
Every level. Liar! Yeah. I forgot to do the warm, furry news.
You did?
I did, yeah. Well, I just ran out of time. We were dealing with the issues. So I will do it tomorrow.
I'll remind you.
And if you haven't heard it yet, you'll love it, unless you really, really hate it. I think those are the only two options for for how you will receive this news. It's either going to push you over the edge or you'll guffaw. So that's at 10 o'clock tonight when I'll be back. If you missed any of tonight's show, you can listen back on Global Player, where we put the show up as a podcast. Take the news and most of the ads out. It takes less time to listen to. I think you'll love it. The Friday and Saturday night shows as a podcast on Global Player. And on Global Player, you can catch up with the latest news from LBC. All of LBC's shows are up there. You can rewind live radio. And if you ain't got it, the 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 radio.